Mike Talks Big. Thanks a lot for listening. Big news today. The Athletic comes out with a story from John Krasinski that, indeed, Ryan Saunders has been named the head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. 4-year deal, and he's in charge of the team. Now, it's being framed as a Gerson Rosas hire. I'm not sure we all believe that, but I guess the place to start with this is the Timberwolves now have a new head coach. So how are we supposed to feel about this? If you're a Minnesota nice guy, I think your feeling is, oh, it's so nice that, isn't it great that Flip's kid gets a chance at this job? But here's the big conflict is that the franchise is in disarray. It's hit rock bottom. And is there really room to give somebody with no NBA head coaching experience a shot at this gig? Somebody with no G League coaching experience as a head coach at this level. Somebody that doesn't have European head coach experience. This is somebody that really got the opportunity by really kind of tracing his dad's footsteps. U of M player, not a dynamic player, assistant coach at the U of M. Worked his way through the system, got an NBA assistant job, then got back to the Timberwolves and has become a student of the game, which should be recognized. That's very much following in the footsteps of his dad, who knew offense extremely well, but also proved it by winning CBA championships and coaching 3 CBA teams and earning his way in the league. He earned the respect of, all-star champion MVP players like Kevin Garnett because he put the work in. He moved where he needed to move. He did what he needed to do. But isn't it, part of our benefit of being the children of successful parents is that sometimes we get to take shortcuts. But is this really a shortcut that Timberwolves fans, it's fair? Is it really fair to them that Ryan Saunders gets a shot at this job when the team really is in another really, really bad spot? The way I see the team right now is that Karl Anthony Towns is somebody that, and I can hear the tune out, cannot be the leader of this team. And here's why I don't think he can be the leader. For starters, he's not a guy that has the ball in his hands a lot. He's not Kevin Durant. He's not Russell Westbrook. He's not, let's go a bit bigger than that. Let's go LeBron James, Seth Curry. He's not that kind of player. And he's not overly athletic. He's got really big feet. He's not the kind of guy that can be a Joel Embiid and take the ball to the hoop and cross you over and all that stuff because it's just not in his game. Now, is he a good offensive player? Well, he's the 6th most efficient offensive player in the league. He does deserve some respect. But how is it that you get, especially if the team gets a couple of more free agents on the roster, how are they going to follow a guy that is not a driven defensive player? We've seen this in the past in Minnesota where you have the Kevin Loves on your roster, and I truly believe that unless Karl Anthony Towns can change his game and play more of a secondary role, be a second or third option on the team, that the team really is headed to where it's been in the past, which is having a really good offensive player, very little defense, and then later somebody like a Kevin Love. We've seen the history. Karl Anthony Towns will be the next guy that complains about not having enough stars around him. However, when you bring in free agents and Karl Anthony Towns gets knocked off the hill and is no longer the leader of the team or the number one option, what happens? You're going to have a lot of this dysfunction that happens with NBA teams. When Jimmy Butler was here, fans and the media really hated what was going on with the Timberwolves because they wanted everything to be almost like an 8th grade or high school basketball team. They wanted everybody to be Minnesota nice and everybody get along because that's what Minnesota teams are like. No, they're not. Not in the NBA, that is, because what NBA winning franchises are like, they're like a street fight. And here's reasons why NBA teams are different than any other team. Because individual players have more power on a 5-man starting lineup than any other professional sport. One player can change the culture of your entire franchise. Jimmy Butler had that opportunity here. The front office and the meddling owner, Glenn Taylor, got involved and ruined Minnesota's opportunity to change the culture of the team. Now we've got, again, a roster of soft players, Andrew Wiggins, who'd rather play Call of Duty, and guys like Karl Anthony Towns, who are very caught up in their offensive numbers. Somebody that really disappears in games when he gets a couple of fouls called against him. He can be gotten to mentally. I'm making the argument that Karl Anthony Towns cannot be the leader of this team. Now you've got Ryan Saunders as your head coach. This is exactly what Karl Anthony Towns and probably Andrew Wiggins want, is that they've got a player's coach. And as much of a player's coach as Flip Saunders was, I'm sure that he has the leverage or had the leverage to be a lot more tougher on players. He had the experience. He handled Kevin Garnett, which just proves that he really was qualified to be the head coach. How does Ryan Saunders deal with Karl Anthony Towns and maybe another free agent or two that come in that are going to be a part of a culture change that are really going to push back against a rookie head coach? I think it's a fair question to ask. Now, if I was to take this to Twitter, I would be completely attacked because Ryan Saunders, in the eyes of a lot of fans, has earned this. But if you go outside the market and you have, frankly, a lot of black coaches, they probably feel they should have had a shot at this job because the league has preached that experienced black coaches are available. They're not being interviewed. Now, I know that Gerson Rosas, when he came to town, did some minority interviewing. But I am very curious to see where this whole thing is going to go. Now, we've seen guys rise up in the ranks and wind up being great head coaches, like Eric Spoelstra worked in the video department for the Miami Heat. And he had great mentorship through somebody like Pat Riley, and he turned out to be able to handle personalities like LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, which is pretty amazing when you think about it, because these guys were superstars in the league. And maybe, just maybe, Ryan Saunders will be able to handle big stars in the league. Right now, the Wolves really only have one star, and that is Karl Anthony Towns. And there's a pretty good chance he's going to have to be in a lesser role as a second or third option because you're going to have a star culture changer, free agent that comes to this team, and they'll have to have their ball, they'll have to have the ball in their hands a lot, and they will likely be the first option. So these are a lot of things when you're looking at a game that is an individual game played within a team framework that are very difficult to handle. Individual players really matter in this league. This is a talent-driven league. Winning NBA franchises are dysfunctional families, and I'll give you some examples. The Golden State Warriors, the Cleveland Cavaliers, or wherever LeBron James is. Look at what's going on right now with the Los Angeles Lakers while they try to figure out how to get things together. A lot of these teams that actually win championships that show up every year, even Popovich, you could say, oh, he's got everything together. Well, he really doesn't. Kawhi Leonard, look what he did. He set out an entire year. It is a player-driven league, and a lot of what happens in NBA locker rooms, you don't hear that much about. There's not many players in a locker room. Everybody's trying to be a star. If you take a look at somebody like a Jimmy Butler, who I feel was the ideal free agent to come here, and he got chased out of town by Glenn Taylor and Karl Anthony Towns. He was a culture-changing guy, and the locker room was a mess. This happens sometimes. Look at, and you're thinking, what is this guy talking about? Well, look at Draymond Green. If that isn't the best point in the league. You've got a veteran coach, former player in Steve Kerr that knows how to handle these types of personalities, and these are the guys that win championships. LeBron James, you think it's easy working with LeBron James? How about Kevin Durant? He left Oklahoma City. Boogie Cousins. Really, a lot of people are like, nobody wants this guy. He goes to the Golden State Warriors and somehow figures out a way to fit in. How's Ryan Saunders going to handle all this stuff? And can you keep Glenn Taylor, the meddling owner, out of it? Remember what KG said? on TNT about Glenn Taylor?
He's dealing with Glenn, who doesn't know shit about basketball. He knows how to make money, but he don't know anything about basketball.
Gerson Rosas, I believe, is the right hobo for this gig. President of basketball operations. He's got a long history with a successful franchise in the Houston Rockets. But there's a lot of questions that have to be answered about whether Rosas will really have complete control of this team and how he's going to manage it if Ryan Saunders can't manage the personalities and stars that are coming to the Minnesota Timberwolves roster. And here's another big question, and I think this is part of the reason that you hire Rosas. Will he be able to get another quality free agent, culture-changing player to come to the Wolves? Because we all know one of the challenges of being in this mid-sized market that's not on the coast is it's tough to get free agents to come here. And then you got two things to deal with Glenn. Will he pay those players, and will he not meddle? Will he stay out of it if things get dysfunctional like NBA families often get? Thanks a lot for listening. This is the Mike Talks Big podcast. Here's the comment line, 612-424-0034. Have a great week.